Welcome back to Hannity. The New Hampshire primaries are only 5 days away, and the candidates are campaigning very hard to try and win over voters. And according to a new poll in that state, Trump takes the top spot with 36%, Marco Rubio in second place with 15%, Ted Cruz in third with 14%. Here with analysis, author of the New York Times bestseller Duplicity, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. All right, so there's been 3 New Hampshire polls that have come in post-Iowa. Trump 38, Rubio 15, Cruz 14. Then you've got Trump 38, Cruz 14, Rubio 12. Then you got Trump 31, Rubio 10, Kasich 12. What does that mean to you? Sounds like it's Donald Trump's state, no?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think Trump will probably win. But I have to tell you, I think this recent round by him doesn't help him. It shrinks him. All of this back and forth with Ted Cruz is, in my judgment, as a political figure, is stupid. People don't want to elect a president who engages in 7th grade, recess name-calling, and that's what this is like. These guys are out there in the playground yelling at each other. Doesn't help Cruz, but it really doesn't help Trump. Trump's great strength is he is bigger than anybody else in the race. He's done bigger things. He's built bigger companies. He has bigger ideas. And now he's just kind of shrinking himself in a way that I'm really surprised by. And I really think it is very much to his disadvantage. I think he's probably still going to win New Hampshire. People up there like him. He's a natural fit for them. People forget that there are style differences in this country, and being a New Yorker in New Hampshire is a lot more, in some ways, is a lot easier than being a Texan in New Hampshire, as both Presidents Bush found out. So Cruz probably has a tougher road. Rubio has had a good run. I mean, Rubio started cleverly on the caucus night, even though, as Jack Welch tweeted, he came in third, but he looked like he was the winner by coming out early, giving a good speech, getting off the stage. Terrific endorsements now in the U.S. Senate coming his way. Very sharp contrast with Cruz. And I think, so Rubio's doing well. But notice the numbers you've got. I mean, if Kasich edges out Rubio, Kasich's alive, and Rubio's still floundering. If we get Trump, Rubio, Cruz, or Trump, Cruz, Rubio, I think at that point it's a 3-person race going into South Carolina, and the others are right on the edge of going home. I mean, it's very hard for me to see how you can not come in competitively in New Hampshire.
Does your advice hold for Cruz, too? In other words, you're saying it diminishes Donald Trump. I don't know if he's listening, but in fairness to them, we are taking out the snippets of them fighting. I mean, there is substance in the speeches.
Well, of course you are. But look, that's the business. I mean, it's the job of the candidate not to give you dumb stuff. Because every candidate should know by now.
Why are you looking at me with that smile that you had on the other night? Why am I getting that again? That means you're sort of like scolding me.
I'm not scolding you. I'm just saying, look.
I'm not.
No, look, this is the business. You know, every time you punch another Republican, the news media will love it. They'll get excited. They'll repeat it 400 times. And you know that every time you have a serious policy speech, they'll do everything they can to avoid it. That's fine. That's the business. It's the job of the candidate, between their advertising and their speeches and their interviews, to force the media to cover what the candidate wants.
Yeah.
So to say to me, oh, the media is going to pick up on negative stuff, is like telling me that lions like to eat zebras. I mean, that's just life.
Yeah, that's life. It's also people are interested in it. But in fairness, when I interview all these candidates, all I ask them really about is mostly about the substance. Where do they stand on foreign policy? How are they going to turn the economy around? How are they going to deal with the debt, health care, immigration, borders, and all the important issues? It seems that a ton of money, maybe Marco's in this spot where the top don't want him to get to the top tier, and the bottom want to get his spot in third, so he seems to be the recipient of maybe the most attacks. Here's a small montage.
Marco Rubio. Very talented guy, but has already demonstrated that he's willing to break his word to the voters and make deals with Democrats to try to force through amnesty.
Marco Rubio hasn't accomplished one thing in his entire career, Joe. I mean, the fact is that this is a guy who's only done one thing in the United States Senate. That was write an amnesty bill for illegal immigrants and then to run away from it when the heat got turned up.
Senator Cruz and Senator Rubio, who have nothing in their background that would suggest they can make a tough decision. They might be able to do it, but there's nothing in their past that would suggest they can lead.
What does that tell you so much money is being spent against him?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, this happened to Cruz the last 4 or 5 days in Iowa. I'm not so sure the voters aren't kind of inoculated and go, oh, yeah, that's just stuff. So I don't know how effective it'll be. Clearly, Marco now faces the same challenge that Cruz did. Marco's had the best run of the last 4 or 5 days, so everybody who has to get past him, which means Kasich, Bush, Christie, they've all got to shoot at him to try to get past him, because if he comes in third, if he and Cruz and Trump are the top three, they will have crowded out everybody else as a practical matter.
The next logical question is, can Governor Christie or Governor Kasich or former Governor Bush, can they get into that next level? George W. Bush just cut an ad for Jeb Bush, the first one he's cut. Here's how that went down.
The first job of the president is to protect America. Our next president must be prepared to lead. I know Jeb. I know his good heart and his strong backbone. Jeb will unite our country. He knows how to bring the world together against terror, and he knows when tough measures must be taken. Experience and judgment count in the Oval Office. Jeb Bush is a leader who will keep our country safe.
Will that be effective?
I think it'll have some impact. It'll particularly have impact in South Carolina, where President Bush is still enormously popular, and the retired military and veterans populations really believe he stood up for America, and the contrast between him and Obama is particularly strong. But it's going to have some impact, but it's also at one level a sign of weakness. It's a sign that Jeb Bush doesn't have an ability on his own to put this together, so he's brought in his brother. Presently, and that's fine. I mean, he has the strength and the weakness of being part of the Bush family, and he's got to live with that. I don't think it will be decisive, but remember, these guys, right, from your polling data, you got about 3 or 4 guys within a very few % of each other. So anything that moves the needle from a Kasich, Bush, Christie standpoint is a big deal. And in one of the polls you just cited, for example, it was Kasich who was in third place, not Rubio. So, we'll have to wait and see how this... I think the debate, by the way, is going to matter a lot.
I agree.
And will be a big deal.
Although it's on a Saturday night, I don't know if that's a bad night to pick for a debate. Just guessing, people might be out at dinner and have more important things to do. How, as you look at Hillary, so she gives this angry, very loud...
By the way, if the Democrats were doing it this weekend, they would have it opposite the Super Bowl to guarantee
exactly.
that no one would have seen it.
Well, they'll start it at 6:15, just when the just with a kickoff time, which is what they usually do. So how big are her troubles? She has a Howard Dean moment on Monday. Then she tries to be the loving, soft-spoken grandmother on Tuesday. God only knows what she'll be tonight. And then you got, of course, the FBI investigation that seems real. 100 FBI agents assigned in this email scandal, and an FBI director that has shown a willingness to stand up to a president. Seems troubling.
Well, look, I think the greatest challenge that Secretary Clinton has is Secretary Clinton. Her answer last night on why she took $675,000 from Goldman Sachs. If you're running against Bernie Sanders, the last thing you want to be is the Wall Street candidate, and the Wall Street candidate who took personally $675,000 and whose explanation is, if I'd known I was going to run for president, maybe I wouldn't have taken it. I mean, talk about a lack of any ethical framework. So it would have been okay to take it if she wasn't running, but it's not okay to take it now that she's running. I think it's that kind of stuff that just eats her up and makes it easier for Sanders. And if you'll notice, by the way, I believe based on today's reports, the youngest leader of the NAACP in history is endorsing Sanders. This is a big deal. Day by day, more and more younger African Americans are coming out for Sanders, and that puts into question all of the Clinton reliance on the African-American community. And if that continues to grow between now and South Carolina, Sanders may do surprisingly well.
He got 84% of the millennial vote in Iowa. He's 74 years old. That is an amazing, astonishing number.
Candidly, it's also a little frightening to me as a conservative that 84% of the Iowa Democrats under 30 thought that an absolute open socialist was a path to the future. That's a sign of how bad our education system is, that they don't realize historically how much socialism ruins economies, ruins countries, destroys goods and services. But it also tells you once again about Hillary Clinton. She ain't got no appeal. When you lose a group by 6-1 inside your own party, you have a real problem with what's going to happen to your candidacy. If I were a Democrat, I'd be very worried about Hillary being the nominee.
All right, Mr. Speaker, thanks for being with us.